just a not so terrible process. Again, this is going to be page 104. Okay, sorry. Okay, so the steps for completing the square is basically we're trying to find a constant that would make our our quadratic here a perfect square trinomial. Okay, remember with the perfect square trinomial, what that means is that it can be factored to where you have a plus or minus a number squared. Essentially is what we're trying to get it down to. And so we're trying to find that number that will make it work. Okay. So in your first box, it's the steps to complete. It first says to divide by a. So we want to factor out our a. And then it's going to give us a new b that we're working with. We only have to do this if a does not equal 1. Okay. You only have to do step 1 if a doesn't equal 1. If a equals 1, then we're good to go. Okay. All right. So we start here. So first we're going to check, see what is the value of a. A here is 1. So we don't have to factor it out. We're good to go. Step 2 is we're going to acknowledge our b. Our b equals 8. And that's going to help us find our c. That's because c equals
our b over a squared.
Our b divided by 2 squared. Yes. Okay, so our c equals our b divided by 2 squared. So c equals 8 divided by 2 squared. What is 8 divided by 2?
4.
4. So c equals 4 squared. What is 4 squared?
8.
16. 4 times 4 is 16. So our blank would be 16. Okay, so what this means is that this could be factored down to x plus 4 squared. And that's because 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 times 4 is 16. So now we have a perfect square trinomial. And that's what step 3 is telling you to do. Okay. Questions so far? We're going to try it again. So example 2, we're going to look at our a. Our a equals 1, so we don't have to divide it out. Step 2 is to find our c. Our c comes from our b. Our b equals negative 14. So c equals negative 14 divided by 2 squared. What is negative 14 divided by 2?
Negative 7.
And what is negative 7 squared?
49.
49. So our blank is 49. So that means our factor, our perfect square factor would
Equals negative 7 squared.
x minus 7 squared.
Minus 7.
And it's a minus because of this guy. Negative 7 times 2 is negative 14. Negative 7 squared is positive 49 because a negative times a negative makes a positive. How do we feel so far? Doable? All right, let's throw a fraction at you. Okay, so we have example 3, I'm sorry, in box 4 on the back. X squared minus 1/2 x. Okay, again, step 1 is to check your a. A equals 1, so we're good to go. Step 2 is your b. This time our b equals negative 1/2. So we're plugging in c equals. And our c is going to be we're gonna do it without, we're gonna keep the fraction. You're good. So we have negative 1/2 divided by 2 squared. How do you divide a fraction? Anyone remembers the rule for dividing fractions?
You turn the bottom.
Okay, turn the bottom into a fraction if it's not already a fraction. Does anyone remember keep, change, flip? Does that ring any bells? You keep the numerator, you change the operation, and you flip the denominator. Keep, change, flip. When you're dividing fractions, you're multiplying by the reciprocal. So -1/2 divided by 2 equals -1/4. And now we're going to square that. When you square a fraction, you're squaring the numerator and the denominator, right? So -1 squared equals 1, and 4 squared equals 16. So when you complete your square, it's 1/16. So step 3 is, what is your perfect square trinomial factor? Here, square root of x squared is x. It's minus square root of 1/16 is 1/4. Okay, double checking yourself. If you owe me a quarter and you ask me for another quarter, you now owe me how much?
I mean, wait.
50 cents. Yeah. If you owe me a quarter and you owe me another quarter, you now owe me 50 cents. And then 1/4 times 1/4 makes 1/16. All right, here we go. This one, this time, does our A equal 1? No, A does not equal 1. So before we can move on, we have to make A equal to 1. Okay, in order to do that, we're going to divide by 4. So that 4 is going to move to the outside. And we have x squared minus 3x, and we're going to have that blank. So do you see what we did when A doesn't equal? Yes. Okay. So now our B is actually -3. This guy right here. So to find C, C equals -3 divided by 2 squared. When you're squaring a fraction, it applies to the numerator and the denominator. So C equals, what's 3 squared? And what is 2 squared? 4. So our C here is 9/4. Okay, the trick here is to get back here. So we got to get back to here. So if we took out the 4 to get back there, what do we have to do? Multiply it back in. So we have 4 times x squared makes 4 times -3 makes. And then what about 4 times 9/4? What's 36 divided by 4? 4 times 9 is 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So our perfect square trinomial, all you're doing is taking the square root of the first term, square root of the last term. And that gives us 2x squared minus 3. You got to divide by the A completely. Yeah. A needs to be 1 in order for perfect square trinomials to work. Okay, we're going to do another one. It's going to be a little harder. Another example of, bless you, by the way. A does not equal 1, right? Since our A does not equal 1, we're going to divide out 25. So we're dividing out 25. And that leaves us with x squared plus, what does 10 over 25 reduce to? 2/3. 2/5? What you said? I did. I was like, what? Bless you. Okay. So for this one, our B equals what? 2/5. So B is 2/5. So to find our C, reason why I'm making you do fractions is because you got to practice with it. And if you can do it with a fraction, you can do it with anything. Okay. Again, how do we divide fractions? Yes, we are to keep, change, flip. We multiply by the reciprocal. So this is 2/5 times 1/2. What happens to your 2's? They cancel out. So you're left with 1/5. 1/25. So we're going to plug that back in. So we have 1/25. Now we have to get back to this. So how do we get back to this? Multiply. 25 times x squared is 25x squared. 25 times 2/5 is 10. 25 times 1 is 25. Divided by 25 is 1. So your perfect square trinomial is 5x plus 1 squared. Okay, we're not gonna be able to do D, part D. So we'll have to do D tomorrow before you start on your classwork. If you want to get a head start on the classwork, by all means you can. Yes.